Good morning, good afternoon and good evening, everybody. My name is Richard Morton. I'm the Secretary General of the International Port Community Systems Association. It's my pleasure today to be here to introduce this joint UN ESCAP-IPCSA International Chamber of Commerce and Asian Development Bank webinar on digital mobile apps facilitating cross-border paperless trade. I think we have to consider mobile apps as the newest emerging tool in the armory that we have for trade facilitation. The new technologies that are emerging will play that facilitating role in enabling better and optimized cross-border paperless trade. And I think it's really important to have these open discussions, examples of apps that are currently in use, and to develop the thinking behind how can they be used in the future. So before we go on to the first session, I would like to introduce the 4 opening remark comments that have all been pre-recorded. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Jan Javal, the Chief of the Trade Policy and Facilitation Section for UN ESCAP. Mr. Hans Rook, the Chairman of the International Ports Community System Association. Ms. Florence Binta-Diaguia, the Policy Manager for the International Chamber of Commerce. And finally, Mr. Ronald Boutillon, the Chief Regional Cooperation and Integration Thematic Group Leader for the Asian Development Bank. So it's a pleasure to have all 4 of them here, and I'll now hand you over to pre-recordings of some opening remarks from them. Thank you.
Good afternoon from UN ESCAP in Bangkok. My name is Jan Duval. I'm the Chief of Trade Policy and Facilitation at ESCAP, and I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to what is the 7th webinar of our webinar series on accelerating cross-border paperless trade in Asia and the Pacific. If you've missed the previous webinars, please go to our website and make sure you watch the videos. I think we have a lot of information in those past webinars on single window interoperability, on blockchain technology, on SPS, e-certs, even on closing the trade finance gaps, right? As that was the last webinars. Today's webinar is really a very exciting one in the sense that it's going to focus on digital mobile applications for cross-border paperless trade facilitation. And this is really a topic that is very dear to my heart. When you visit many developing countries in Asia and the Pacific, and you see how small and medium-sized enterprises in particular operate, many have access to and access online information and digital tools through their mobile phone only. And so it's very useful to see to what extent a lot of the paperless trade systems and facilities that have been developed are moving into mobile applications. So I look forward to learning a lot from the speakers today. And I'm also very pleased to see that IPCSA is co-organizing the webinars this time with us, ICC and ADB. And as always, I look forward to learning a lot from the stakeholders participating is international port community system associations because they are very close to the ground. So lots of things to learn there. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the webinars.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, delegates, colleagues. As chairman of IPCSA, I'm delighted to be moderating at this important webinar. This will be a fascinating opportunity to hear how the latest innovation can transform cross-border paperless trade. For many years, IPCSA members have delivered the electronic platforms and solutions that enable swift, smooth, and efficient flow of global trade. I would never suggest that COVID-19 is something to celebrate, but the pandemic has clearly accelerated the shift in the paperless exchange of information in trade. That is a development we all welcome. So how can digital mobile apps take us to a new level of efficiency, transparency, and real-time information? Millions of people already manage their finance via banking apps on their smartphones. Each app was originally linked to one bank. But we see now that a growing number of apps include accounts from different banks in various countries. Banking apps are already part of our daily life. In terms of cargo, a transport software provider called CX North America has recently unveiled new booking and cross-border features for its mobile apps to eliminate the problem gaps in communication at borders between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. We are seeing a growing demand for visibility and transparency throughout the supply chain. Shippers want to know exactly where their goods are, where there have been delays, and when it will arrive at the destination. They want access to that information wherever they are. This is all about tracking and tracing of cargo the whole way in real time. No breaks at border, no black holes when it comes to crucial information. No need for shipper to be at his or her desk. We always emphasize that IPCSA members really aren't interested in innovation for the sake of innovation. We are looking for innovation that makes the difference. So let's hear about digital mobile apps can do to facilitate cross-border trade. Thank you.
Greetings from the International Chamber of Commerce from Paris. I am Florence Binta-Diaugay and I work as a policy manager in the Global Policy Department at ICC. Welcome to all of you to today's webinar on how mobile apps facilitate cross-border paperless trade. First, I would like to thank the organizers, ESCAP-ADB and EPCSA, for organizing yet another great webinar today. Thank you also to all our speakers for taking the time to teach us about this important topic today. And also, thank you to the attendees for being a part of the webinar. This topic is particularly pertinent, and I would like to just name 3 reasons as to why it is so important. The first one, health. We are unfortunately still not past COVID-19, and we are still in the middle of it. So it makes it even more important to advance on paperless solutions. If COVID-19 has proven one thing, it is that the digital economy is now indispensable to global prosperity and to making our economies more resilient. Second reason, accessibility. Mobile apps are very accessible. In particular, I'm thinking of developing countries, where not everyone has access to a computer or to a laptop. But mobile phones with apps are much wider used. This means it enables MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, to access easier cross-border trade. And this is one of the core missions of ICC. We make business work for everyone, every day and everywhere. And the third reason, innovation. Innovation is a motor of economic growth and an accelerator of international trade. Mobile apps can offer simple solutions and make transactions more efficient and safer for all participants in a business transaction. And since everything we do here at ICC aims to promote international trade and investment, we think that mobile apps are important tools and clearly an accelerator for paperless trade. So we are very excited to be a part of this webinar today. And there are some stellar speakers that will teach us more about the topic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. It is my pleasure to welcome you all. Today's topic on cross-border trade facilitation using digital mobile apps is very timely. Nearly 2 years into the pandemic, a recovery is underway as vaccines are being deployed and economic activities resume. While the outlook remains uncertain, the utilization of digital technology is playing an important role in the economic revival. As applied to cross-border trade, the benefits of digital transformation are well known. These include reduced trade costs, streamlined operations, and shorter time delays. In the midst of the pandemic, it also eliminates the scourge of paper-based documentation and face-to-face transactions. Moreover, as trade flows increase and more goods are transported overseas, digital applications are better able to handle the large amount of data processing needed for various aspects of doing business, logistics coordination, and customs clearing. Government regulations can also become more transparent and easier to implement with digital transformation. With trade agreements in place, such as the revised Kyoto Convention and the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, along with common digital standards set by the United Nations, enhancing the digital infrastructure brings us closer to implementing a fully and digitally enabled trade system. Such international agreements in place need to be brought to scale to have technical frameworks and customs infrastructure in place. Many developing economies lack the finance and knowledge to acquire and operate the requisite digital infrastructure. As we move toward greater digitalization in a post-COVID-19 era, we need to invest more in digital customs systems as well as e-port management systems. I look forward to this afternoon's discussions on how these mobile apps can be used to facilitate cross-border trade. I especially welcome the participation of our colleagues from the maritime industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan, Hans, Florence, and Ronald, for giving us the context for today's webinar. I think it's really important to understand the context from international bodies, seeing the value of the technology that we have available. Florence said exactly right. The COVID pandemic has shown us the value of the digital economy. We all have, or many of us will have, COVID apps in order to show our COVID passes and those types of things. So I think apps are here to stay. And with that, I will hand over to Mr. Hans Rook to lead the first panel discussion. Over to you, Hans.
Thank you, Richard, for opening words, and thank you to all speakers, of course, with their interesting view on the use of apps now and in the future. Now and in the future, talking about the new way of using apps by border crossing. That's the topic of today. We all know that, well, we all have many apps on our phones. All apps are used for bilateral communication from one party to another party and back again. When you go for cross-border, it means that you will connect to many parties from one device, from your own device, your mobile device, which gives you another view on the world by using an app that is connecting to, let's say, 3, 4, 5, even more parties than only one. So hopefully today we get some highlights on that aspect, and otherwise I will put some questions forward. But I would like to start the panel discussion today with two speakers, which is Mr. Richard Morton. You have heard him already a couple of times now by the opening, and my dear friend from Portnet Maroc, Youssef Ahuzi. Just a short introduction for both of them. Richard is our Secretary General. He is the Secretary General of IPCSA, I should say today. and he works to support international organizations on trade facilitation and digitalization, including UN, WCO, WHO, WTO, well, name them, and all seen from the PCS operations and single window operations point of view. So that's the introduction for Richard, and at the same time I will also introduce my dear friend from Morocco. I must excuse first of all Mr. Samha. Mr. Samha is not online. He is somewhere in the US, and I think it's a difference of 15-16 hours with Bangkok today, so that's a little bit cumbersome to have him online today, so excuse for that. Going back to my dear friend and CEO of Portnet in Morocco, Youssef Ahouzi. Youssef is currently the acting CEO of Portnet, National Single Window for the Foreign Trade Procedures in Morocco. And Youssef is also involved in several technology programs, and he is the Vice President of the African Alliance for E-commerce, and he is part of several international projects and programs as an expert in e-government and digital transformation, as well as in the establishment of single window and community systems. That's all for that's an introduction of those two well-known speakers to me, and I would like to give the floor now to Richard to give a short presentation on his view on mobile apps. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you for that. If you can just confirm you can see my screen.
Not yet. Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
As Hans has said, digital mobile apps are really important for facilitating cross-border trade and enabling that paperless trade that we all need, particularly in this time of pandemic. As IPCSA, the International Port Community Systems Association, our members have been at the forefront of developing mobile apps to facilitate that trade in ports and airports. And I think it's important to understand that, and it's a pleasure to be with our colleagues from Morocco, from India, and from Australia here today. What I will do is I won't talk about specific apps. I'll just talk about some general principles and some other elements. I always like going back to basics. And what do I mean by that? It's about what do we mean by a mobile app? Because I think if you speak to most people, they may all have a slightly different view of what we mean by a mobile app. When you talk about mobile app, we all assume it's the mobile phone, but it's a smartphone, it's a tablet. It could be any form of communication. So I think we need to look at that and just have a look at going back to basics. So once you investigate what a mobile app is, these are most commonly referred to as an application. It's a mobile application, let's keep it simple. And it's about software enabling a mobile device, smartphone, tablet, computer in order to do specific functions. And it might be linked to just the app, the website, iPhones. You can get them off most of the app stores that we know, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Samsung, Apple. And I think that's where we are. We see this in our everyday life. And that's really one of the benefits. One of the challenges of digitalization in the maritime sector and for cross-border trade is getting people engaged and that change management. If you can allow them to use things that they use on an everyday basis, like a mobile app, it allows them to engage better in that change management and enable them to do that cross-border trade. What we've seen is that mobile applications, they frequently serve to provide users with services similar to those accessed on a PC, but just optimized for a mobile app. But as mobile applications are evolving, this is starting to change. It's not just linked to another system. The mobile apps are becoming much more powerful. And I think we need to look at that more modern methodology and about explicitly showing how the mobile environment can benefit cross-border trade. So I think we need to look at all of that in that context, is what a mobile app can do, what are its limitations. And when we talk about that, what are the limitations that we have with mobile app? These are changing every day as there are more services coming in. But we've identified around 9 different elements that need to be considered when you're looking at apps of some description. Mobile apps, they don't substitute a website. They will do a specific function. They're either linked to a website or provide a service from that website for a specific element. You also, because of that, you also need to update and maintain not just the app, but the website and other elements. So your efforts are multiplied in terms of having to manage information and having to manage how that information is done. And as technology advances, that becomes simpler. But of course, then you also need the Android or iOS applications and listings, and you need to find a software company that can help you develop that app. We know as IPCSA, we have a bespoke community app just for our members, which is listed on Android and on iOS. The challenge is that we are having to maintain that in the marketplace as well and update it with any updates of the marketplaces. You need separate URLs. Doesn't necessarily help with your search engine optimization about directing people to your website. As I've mentioned, there's extra marketing pressure because you have to update multiple areas. There's costs. How much does it cost? If you have your own in-house developers, that's very different to having an external player updating it. And how do people find your application? You have to be proactive in that marketing. We also have to look at security elements. We've seen recently outages of Facebook or Google. And if you use single sign-on via Facebook, Google, Amazon, is there an issue about when some of those services may fail for a short period, what you can do with your apps on your phone? And also, how secure are the apps when you're linking them to administrative systems around the world? So I think we always have to look at not just the real value that these apps can bring, but sometimes the limitations and manage those limitations and expectations. But we're here today talking about apps in cross-border paperless trade, and you'll hear more from those real experts like Yusuf, who are using this on a day-to-day basis. The challenge that you have in apps is cross-border trade is complex. You have multiple parties involved in both the regulatory and operational processes. In a typical shipment going through a port, you might have up to 40 different public and private players involved in that cross-border trade and that cargo going through the port. So you have to consider that when you're having access to the apps and how people are using it. And then if it's cross-border, are apps from one country trusted in another? Are they accepted by the administrative bodies? And I think some of those also need to be considered when we're talking about true cross-border trade. But what can they do for us? It increases transparency. We can now go on and track cargo relatively easy through a mobile app through your phone if you have, for example, a container number or bill of lading number. The information is available to you anywhere as long as you have a connection. And their increasing complexity means they are becoming more powerful tools. If we look back to the start of digitization with computers, when they first came out, the computers were less powerful than the phones we use today. But they're now, the computers are now the backbone of our cross-border trade and our economies. And now with the powerful nature of the new mobile phones and tablets coming in, they're becoming more powerful. So I think there's a real benefit here for facilitating cross-border trade, but we must always recognize there is always a human factor in this. Because it's about inputting data. If you input the wrong data, you won't get information out. How do you guarantee the identity of the people using a mobile phone to access secure or confidential data? So I think the value is there. The value needs to be developed. And I think the logistics and maritime sector are embracing mobile apps as another tool in their arsenal in terms of managing cross-border paperless trade. And with that, I will hand back to Hans as our moderator for the rest of the panel. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, Richard, for your explanation, and you kept it short for your normal attitude. Normally, it's much more. It's good to have it short, because I saw Youssef's presentation already. It was 30 pages, so he has some more time to elaborate more about Portnet in Morocco, and of course, he focused especially on the use of apps, and it's amazing to see also his statistics in the presentation. So Youssef, I think everybody is very curious to know what you are going to talk about and what you have in mind about the apps for cross-border trade. Youssef, the floor is yours. I think, Richard, you have to give back the screen sharing, right? Now you can share, I think.
Thank you very much, Herman. Thank you very much, Richard, for your presentation. I think this subject is very interesting for us because the mobile usage is the trend is very important for us. I will share my screen. Just
yes, it works.
Okay, thank you very much. I will start by presenting Portnet, so you can have the context of my presentation. Portnet is the single windows for foreign trade here in Morocco. It's a platform that that is used by our economic operator to do a lot of procedures, regulatory and operational procedures with all the foreign trade players. It's a tool that is specific to the Moroccan government, which aims to implement several sectors sectorial strategies to improve the business climate, trade, port and logistics competitiveness, as well as the digitalization of the e-gov services in Morocco. We have a lot of actors in the platform, from importers, exporters to customs, banks, control agencies, maritime and port authorities. So it's a unique platform that is used by all these actors to deliver foreign trade procedures. We have more than 59,000 users that are using the platform usually for their daily operation, and with more than 45 important exporters and also other actors, the banks, administration, and also with some logistic operators like dry port operators and others. And we have more than 120 online services that are used in the platform. For supporting this services, we are using more than 20 million UDIs. The objective is to increase the efficiency of the logistic chain of economic operators and public and private service providers, to reduce uncertainty and delays and logistic costs. Climate, governance and transparency in the business administration relation, and also between business and business relation also. Our objective is to simplify and speed up the procedures and formalities for the import and export of goods. To establish also a favorable environment for competitiveness of our economic operators, and also speed up the cross-border passage of goods, and to improve the traceability and transparency of operation in foreign trade. We have a large services that are starting by the online identification of subscription of our operator economic in the Portnet, and also for other administration, to the preparation period, to also the logistic in ports, airports, clearance, and also for the planification of exits. And we have some transversal services like the e-payment, and hosting services, hostness KPIs, and also for the financial also services with Interact, which is an ongoing project for now. Of high added value services that we are supporting the platform, and as I mentioned, is going from the preparation to the clearance of the goods. You know, it's the mobile app is not it's not a trend anymore. It's our needs, because mobile application is a fastly evolving sector. Within a blank smartphone, we have become a constant companion. Many technologies made their way into our lives, and the revenue for mobile apps development has skyrocketed in the recent years. But there are more. The number of smartphone users is skyrocketed from this are some statistics from the World Wide Bank, and also from our national telecommunication agency. Here in Morocco, we are a population of 40 million, and the number of smartphones that are used for mobile internet is we have 31 million smartphones that are used here in Morocco. So we see that number of users of this use of the mobile phone is very important here in Morocco, and we see here also the number of annual app downloads in billions. This is from the World Bank. We see that the trend is also is important. So the mobile apps are more used by users. We have another information that smartphone users spend more than 90% of their time on mobile application compared to websites. So the usage of apps is more convenient to users, because they have the information directly. They don't need to the app address to see, and it's a very simple to use than websites. Those are some comparison between responsive mobile websites or mobile app, because as you see, there is some differences between them, because for example, for the compatibility, the mobile websites are displayed equally well on all types of device, but for the mobile apps, we require, for example, development, so more investment to have an app for every platform, for Android or iOS platforms. For example, for the mobile apps, the accessibility is only for smartphone. But for example, for the mobile websites, we can have it in cover all the devices, mobile, desktop, laptops, and also tablets. Sometimes for some use case, for example, for the mobile apps, we can have some use case for offline use case that can be used, for example, to save some data in the mobile phone that can be uploaded. For example, online when the connection is recovered. There is also some other differences between the mobile websites or expensive mobile websites and the mobile apps. For example, for the convenience, or also for the personalization, because for the mobile app, you have it in your phone, so you can personalize this with the wider option than what was apps are conception are very intuitive and simple and intuitive. So you have to give your users an intuitive and simple design to access the information from any point of from any point, and to have simple access to the data they need. The objective for this application is to consult and record information to improve the efficiency of operation and to increase the quality of this information in the platform, for example. So the objective is to reduce, for example, the custom clearance times, costs incurred by the players in the logistic ecosystem, to accelerate event tracking, and also to improve operational efficiency of ports and the foreign trade in general, and also to enable data interoperability between platforms. In Portnet, we have used a lot of technology, so we have defined some use case for our users that we are working now to web users to our mobile users. Those use cases we have defined use case for example, executive people that are using the application, for example, to have access for some information, but also we have defined some uses for operational people, blue collar people that are using the application, for example, to track, for example, some foreign trade procedures. So this application we have used some technologies that can simplify the development. For example, we are using React Native that is based in React, and it's allowed to develop across platform application development. And use it in both Android and iOS platforms. Also, this framework is used also for web applications. So when we develop with when develop with the web, we have also we develop once, and we can use this development to also create a new app for our users. Why we are using this technology? This is a miniature technology, stable, and also there is sustainable. We have a lot of information from the community of using this framework, and also the development and the time to market is very important in our daily work. So when we develop a feature in our web platform, we can use this development also to create a new app for our users. So using Firebase, which is backend services that is giving us a lot of technology, for example, for authentication, for cloud messaging, a lot of technology that are not that are used as a service. So it's very helpful for us to give those application more capabilities and more features, and also for the time to market, because it's very simple to develop with such platforms. With this platform, we forget about the infrastructure. We just make smart data-driven decision. So we create application for our users. Those are some applications that we have developed recently. This is, for example, a web interface for our Portnet KPIs, which give a lot of information to executive people how all the information about their operation. Also, for example, for the appointment booking for container table from the ports, those web application we use them. We use the development we have done to create new apps that give an innovative solution that gives the possibility to create apps for our users, so they can monitor and access to this data from their app directly, and they give you a real-time information about all the metrics and KPIs for the users. Also, for the appointment booking app, we give simple application to our users that can be used for the appointment, to make an appointment for the removal of the container, with the simple application with an easy way to make this appointment, to using QR codes and simple manner to make this appointment. End of my presentation. If you have any question about our experience here in Portnet with using the mobile apps, I am available for.
Thank you so much, Youssef, for your explanation and giving a view on the use of apps at yours at Portnet, and also what you said about the daily practice of using the apps. Well, then you realize that from early in the morning when you stand up, the first thing you do is open your phone and look whether our message is yes and no. Most of them social media, and mine is always open to look at the weather forecast, but I can go out with the dog or not because it's raining or not. But that's the daily practice. And also daily practice is that sometimes you're sitting just opposite to each other and sending each other messages. And then I look up and say, hey, you can talk to me instead of sending a message. So sometimes it's so common use these days to use the apps to the, let's say, 100%. And even when you look after 1 hour at a certain message, you excuse yourself that you didn't answer earlier because you had a time difference of 1 app between sending and receiving the answer. But going back to the subject about cross-border, I see there are a number of messages or questions coming in. And the first one, Youssef, it's more directed to your Portnet system, is from Kingsley Kuala, asking whether your solution currently supports the inspection of containers. Are you muted, or did you hear the question, Youssef?
So if I understand, the question is about the inspection of containers, for example.
Yes, whether you have a solution for that.
Yeah, yes, we are working on that, because we are working in an application for the airport. The use case was from our colleague from Ram Cargo, which is the handler in the airport. The use case is about having the traceability from different actors when the goods are controlled or are visited by the customs and other agencies. So we are working in an application, a mobile application that will have a multi-profile application and give some information, for example, to the handler, so he can give information when the goods are moved to the area for example, to do the visit or the control. and also for other agencies to give the information about when and if the visit is done, and also for the importers and the economic operator, he can see all the steps that the information that are being up from this application. So so working in that, and we hope we have this this application by January or February of the next year.
Right. Another question also coming from Kingsley, Youssef, is whether you also integrate apps from external parties, or do you develop them all yourself?
For those applications, we are developing them for ourselves, but we can have some third-party also application that can be integrated. It depends in the use case.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Richard. I want to have the next question to you. It's about the legal aspects of using cross-border apps. When you send a message to, let's say, the customs via an app to them, what about the legal aspects? And do you think, well, what's the environment in which you can use that information? You receive the information, but can you use it again for exchange of the data to other ones? What are your views on that?
Thank you for the easy question, Hans. I think it's a real challenge. I think the regulatory situation still needs to be looked at and matured. The challenge you have with most regulation is that it's behind technology. Technology will be far in advance of regulation. So sometimes the challenges that technology has doesn't match the regulation that might be in place. And I think if we're looking at banking and those types of things, actually, when we look at the sharing of information, you have to look at what information you're sharing. If you're sharing, I think one of the questions was related to cross-border payments. Well, generally, the cross-border payments will be between two banks. So in order to use a mobile app, there needs to be a relationship between a bilateral relationship between those banks, or multilateral between multiple party banks. If we're talking about regulatory authorities, I think that's become more challenging. I think the regulatory authorities can move advanced. I live in Latvia. When I have goods that come in, personal goods that come in from the UK, for example, that now need customs clearance, I use my mobile phone to prove my identity to the customs authorities in order to make that customs clearance. And it's very simple. So I think the tools for regulatory authority become much more of a supporting tool to their core services. It provides a proof of who you are. The regulatory issues really depend on the processes that the apps are dealing with. If it's just transparency and you're just saying this is where a container is, very little regulatory processes. If it's about sharing information, then it's more about who you're sharing it with and why, because you still have to maintain that confidentiality. So it's a question I don't think that I've answered, and I don't think will be answered easily, and will have to be looked at on an individual case basis. Hope that helps you, Hans.
Yes, and especially I looked at your presentation and about the update of the apps. So let's say you have a legal, you have legalized your app for certification to customers, for instance, and use the application. And then the application must be, the app must be certified. You must be certified to use the application by the customs. And then you go for an update on the app. Normally, when you have an update the app, you get just a sign from, let's say, either Google or Apple that you can upload a new app. But in this case, there are more in the background. So you must be very careful with those kind of apps from business to government, especially. The business is a little bit different, right? Another question was, Youssef, that's more about your environment in Morocco. We know Portnet, and we know also the PCS of Tangimet. And there was a question about from Walid. He said, just answering for Youssef, Tangemet links into Portnet as a trade single window and uses some of the services. The Tangemet PCS has its own services outside that of Portnet, but as I understand, it is interoperable interestingly Tangemet. Sorry.
This was this was the answer of Richard for the question of Walid, because I see that he's asking about Tangemet and the relationship with Portnet. As Richard said, Tangemet is using their own PCS separately from Portnet. Portnet is also a PCS for all the ports for the Port Authority ANP, the Port Authority Agency here in Morocco, with more than 12 ports, commercial ports that are using this PCS. For Tangemet, they are using their own PCS because there are some use cases that usage that are specific for Tangemet. But for all the other procedures, for example, for trade, for pay-arrival procedures, and also for clearance control, they are using also Portnet. So those are complementary platforms and very interoperable also.
Right. Thank you. Just one last question before I hand over to Sue Yoon for the let's say the case studies. We're all using apps, and in my introduction, I hit upon, let's say, the banks and also the company in the US that are using already cross-border apps in different way than we used to. When you have two bank accounts, you have two apps on your phone, for bank account number 1 and for bank account number 2. The app I was focusing on was you have an app to which with one app you can connect to let's say 3 or 4 bank companies when you have an account over there from one app. And let's say so it's general, or an application is not focused on one bank only. It's like email. When you have email accounts, 5, 6 email accounts, you have one app in which you can find all the different emails back again. What about, let's say, an app for cross-border? Instead of having all different apps for different countries to connect with, or different entities to connect with, should there, or is there a possibility and a solution available already, or is there thoughts about it, to have an app made, let's say by IPCSA, for instance, that can connect from one place to many other PCSs all over the world to retrieve information about vessel arrival, vessel departure, loading, etc., etc. Richard, what do you think about it? I know about network trusted network, for instance. Should that be an option?
Yeah, thank you, Hans. Yes, IPCSA's network of trusted networks is about connecting platforms. And I think it will be down to platforms like Portnet, who is one of our members of our network of trusted networks, to create apps for their users to be able to integrate into the network of trusted networks. So the app will just be a user interface into the mechanism that Portnet has for retrieving data from different ports around the world. And I think that's really where the value comes, because you've simplified it. If we take that example, the user already knows Portnet. Portnet knows who the user is. It has a local authentication on that user. And Portnet then acts as the enabler to get that data through the network of trusted networks from other ports. And I think that's going to be one of the ways that the logistics supply chain is going to have greater visibility in the future. Accessing through apps, but ensuring they're still using those trusted third parties of single windows and port community systems. I hope that answers your question, Hans.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you very much, Richard. And I see there are more questions still open, but we cannot answer all the questions because I'm sure that that Sue is waiting for me to close this part of the session. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Youssef, so far. I'm sure that the open questions can be answered later on, maybe by mail or another way. We will discuss that with the organization of this webinar, how to deal with that. And saying that, I thank you very much for your attention on this part of the session about the panelist discussion, with some fruitful information, hopefully for you and also for the future, how to look at apps for cross-border especially. The next session will be about case studies. And before, well, I will just end now, but the moderator of this session will be Ms. Soo-Hyun Kim. And I would like to hand over the mic and the video now to Sue to introduce, let's say, the speakers and to start with the case studies. Sue, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans. It was very interesting to hear the interactive discussions for the panelists. So thank you very much, Richard and Yusuf as well. So as Hans introduced, we will be now moving to the case studies. So hopefully it would be shining the lights into how on the field the mobile apps are being used and utilized. So without further ado, let me introduce the first speaker. Mr. Arma Moore, CEO of K Logistics Solutions. Unfortunately, because of the time differences, he is not with us now, but we will share the pre-recorded video. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put it in the Q&A box. We will definitely link him and let him answer some of your questions if needed. Thank you. So please, Mr. Arma Moore.
Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to all of you. Thank you, UN ESCAP and IPCSA for giving me this opportunity to talk about a relevant subject, the role of mobile apps in trade facilitation. I'm going to be talking about the airport cargo community systems, and I'll talk about what are the different use cases where mobile apps have actually provided tremendous value and have reduced the dwell times, have created great visibility and transparency in the supply chain. And we will see specific case studies and use cases where it has been successfully implemented. So without further ado, just first of all introduce this whole concept of an airport cargo community system, right? When we talk about trade facilitation, we all know that United Nations Recommendation 33 provides the guidelines for digital infrastructure of trade facilitation. So the level 1 is about paperless customs, level 2 is custom single window, regulatory single window, and level 3 is where we talk about different kind of port or airport community platforms, right? Now, what is an airport cargo community platform? Airport cargo community platform is essentially an electronic platform that facilitates digital interactions between different airport stakeholders, namely the importers, exporters, freight forwarders, customs brokers, carriers, customs, ground handling agents, and other stakeholders that are involved in the air cargo business. So just to give you the concept, it's a platform that is put up at the airport, and in the absence of the platform, the way information is exchanged between these different stakeholders, right, is a complete mess that you see. You see different documents carrying the same data flowing between different stakeholders in a very haphazard fashion. I mean, this is how the industry works. But when you come to an airport cargo community platform, it's like a common platform for all the airport cargo stakeholders. And there, data that is created by one party in the supply chain can be reused by the other party, so that there is elimination of duplication of data entry work and mistakes, therefore. And also a complete transparency and visibility of the shipment across the air cargo value chain. So data that is created by exporter can be used by the freight forwarder. Whatever freight forwarder creates can be used by airlines or customs broker for customs filing, so on and so forth, right? So you can see that this mesh is kind of streamlined in the form of a common platform. And these airport cargo community systems are, fast evolving. Right now, we have some of the benchmark cargo community systems, and I'm going to be talking about a couple of community platforms that have really delivered tremendous value to the airport cargo stakeholders. And I'm going to focus on how mobile apps kind of provided this value to the end stakeholders. So with an understanding of what an airport cargo community system, let's look at the mobile app use cases. So I'm going to talk about two important projects that we were as Kali Logistics personally involved in. One was digital document delivery, a paperless imports project at Mumbai Airport. This is a landmark project because we are trying to look at eliminating about 8 to 10 copies of paper per shipment on the import side, and then that kind of tantamounts to close to about 6 to 7 million copies of paper on an annual basis. That's equivalent to 1,000 trees a year, right? So this is a huge sustainability impact that we have. So when we conceptualize this project, we understood that most of these activities are going to be performed by people who are shared supervisors, customs officers who are on the ground, freight forwarders and customs brokers and their staff on the ground, the cargo warehouse operators, so on and so forth, right? So that's where, this project is delivered purely on a mobile app, right? So most of the processes are there on the mobile app. So whether it is uploading of e-dockets or document pouches through mobile apps, or it is terminal charges payments that are being done by the mobile app, or gate pass generation for taking the cargo out of the mobile app, or vehicle token generation to bring the vehicle in and record vehicle in out time at the cargo terminal, as well as dock in dock out time, so on and so forth, right? So these are the use cases that we executed on the mobile apps, and you will see those as I go along. Similarly, export facilitation at Bangalore International Airport. Bangalore is Asia's fastest growing airport in terms of cargo, and there all these permissions to bring the cargo to the airport, those are developed on the mobile app. The whole delivery order approvals, they are developed on the mobile apps, as well as end-to-end tracking. So these are some of the concrete use cases that are live in operation today in trade facilitation. So let me look at the Mumbai Air Cargo Community System mobile app. It's called AMAX, and every stakeholder has a username and password, and they log in there. So if you're a customs broker, there are several features available to you. This is the terminal that you choose, that you want to go to. Then you can choose the delivery docket, digital delivery docket option. You can then choose several things there where you can search for a terminal charges receipt, search for look at creating tokens, look at delivery acceptance, or just creating the gate pass for the shipment, right? Now when you kind of click on this option, there you can see first you need to upload the documents against an airway bill, right? So you can actually upload these different copies of document on the airway bill, and these documents, once you upload those documents, those are recorded here, whether those are uploaded or not. And if the document upload is complete, then you can actually proceed on creating a gate pass, right? So this is about the document upload. The documents are uploaded. Once the documents are uploaded, you can also pay the terminal charges. So through the mobile app, the customs broker or a freight forwarder can actually see how much are the charges that they need to pay, and those charges can be seen here. If they have pre-deposit accounts, they can choose the pre-deposit account, enter the transaction password, and then you can actually, make payments online through mobile app. Then for gate pass generation, you can just, after you have done the payments, you can actually, generate a gate pass. For gate pass, you just click on generate gate pass. Your number is generated, then a barcode is generated, and that barcode can be scanned whenever you're moving the payment out of the terminal facility. Similarly, you can generate vehicle tokens. So you can choose the token option, you can choose the terminal, you can select the gate passes to generate tokens. So you can choose the airway bill, and against that airway bill, you can choose a particular gate pass. Hit the next button. Once you have it, you can enter the vehicle number, you can enter the driver name, you can record the license plate number, mobile number of the driver, and then you can generate the vehicle token there. And finally, when the vehicle token is generated, it can simply be scanned along the journey, thereby facilitating all the recordings there, right? So that's how, and the custom broker can also do delivery acceptance. That is, whenever he is accepting delivery, the same can be accepted on the mobile app, right? So these use cases that we saw in Mumbai. Similarly, at the Bangalore airport, you also have a mobile app where you can use your username and password, you can sign it, and then you have exports and imports as your menu options. You can choose the export, and carting order is more like a permission to bring the cargo to the terminal, and this permission is granted by the airline, so they can look at the airway bill. They can then assign the exact flight. So if it is already there, they'll just approve it. If it's not there, they'll enter a different flight number, and then they can approve the order. So this is another important process. There is an important process for delivery of cargo. So that's something that can also be done online, as is done there. And finally, you have whole export tracking, so you can see whether the data has been submitted successfully, the carting order request has been received, has it been approved, terminal charges have been paid or not, cargo has been accepted or not, customs permission, which is called ALIO, has been given or not, and then these different milestones of manifesting and finalizing the acceptance. All of that can be tracked by the end customer through the mobile app, giving end-to-end visibility. I think, these are some of the important features that we wanted to bring about. We work with several airports. I mean, there are other use cases of truck dock assignment, geofencing when the truck enters the airport perimeter, etc., that we have executed in Atlanta and several other airports in North America. But I think due to paucity of time, I'll stop here. And thank you so much again, UN ESCAP, for this opportunity. And I'll be very happy to answer questions. If you need more information, please feel free to reach out to us at these details. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Amamo. That was very interesting, showing how on the field in Mumbai and as well as Bengaluru, the mobile apps were working. Now I would like to move on and then introduce Mr. Gordon Hahn. He's the project manager of the One Stop Connections.
Thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate your time today, and I would like to I'm very grateful to ESCAP and IPCSA for the opportunity to speak today. What I might do is I might share my screen, and if we can just shout out to make sure that you can see my presentation.
It's showing.
Okay, great, excellent. So today, I think what I was planning to do is just walk you through One Stop's approach to facilitating paperless trade. Now, I know a lot of the talk today has been around cross-border trade. I'm sure you know, I've picked up from my accent, I'm in Australia. We're an island very far away, so we don't have a lot of trains or trucks moving across our borders from multiple borders. But regardless, we are looking to facilitate paperless trade, optimize the logistics landscape and increase transparency for all parties in the supply chain. The use case that we'll talk about today is really about following a container in its life cycle, regardless if it's in an international space or a domestic space. The problem that I'm presenting here is threefold. So first of all, we have a transport company. And in this environment, the transport company is heavily reliant on paper. Paperwork is really in the form of PDF. The transport company has no visibility of their driver movements, and they rely on taking photos of paperwork in their office to text to their drivers on mobile phones. Now, this paperwork is transferred over SMS on their phones so that the driver can access their destination point. Then obviously there's an information lag in this whole process. If we follow this chain, we talk about the truck driver. Now, the truck drivers are nomadic. They don't go back to the office after every job they do. They float throughout the community. They rely on paperwork. They have no seamless communication with their office and no seamless communication with their destination. They also have inefficient entry to their destination facilities. The use case that we're going to talk about today is about container parks. But the application of this, of what I will walk through, is universal to an international terminal, a shipper's packing location, an importer's warehouse. The application is universal. So if we talk about this use case, the destination facility cannot prepare for an inbound truck. They don't know when the truck is going to arrive. They cannot communicate with the driver on their instructions upon arrival. They've got a high cost in gate processing. So essentially what we have here is an environment where up to 30 to 50 trucks are arriving within an hour. They need to be processed. They have to stop at a gatehouse to present paperwork to the gatehouse for them to process and to accept the arrival of the vehicle. And obviously we have a large amount of uncoordinated truck movements coming into the facility and also within the facility itself. So what we have here is different problems for different parties. The sum of all those different problems leads to an inefficient facilitation of trade. Here at One Stop, we delivered an app. We delivered an app that's designed for the truck driver. It's called One Stop Deliver. Now, the application is a seamless integration across multiple products within the One Stop platform. The application talks to our booking system, which is a vehicle booking system. It's a booking system that transport companies make to access specific facilities, whether they be international terminals or container empty parks. The application also talks to our container park operating system called Modal, and also our transport management system, which is built for truckers. The application is available on both Android and Apple. It's a low touch setup, almost no maintenance for the driver to manage. And what we aim to do here is build a greater connection between the driver, their destination, and the customer. And as a result, we want to orchestrate a workflow which is obviously going to increase transparency for everyone who has an interest in that container. So just like the previous presentation, we are using geofence technology in conjunction with the application. And in this case, what we've done is we've actually enabled the ability to install virtual perimeters around any key facility. Okay, so again, it could be a terminal, it could be an airport, it could be a warehouse. We can set up multiple geofences with different meanings. So we can set up a fence in this case, as an approaching fence. Now, a geofence in our world can be anywhere from a 10-meter radius to a 100-kilometer radius. We can set them up within minutes. We have a facility fence. We have a gate in, and we have a gate out fence. Now, we work with every facility to establish the most appropriate locations for these fences. And we now move into an orchestrated workflow. And I'll just quickly move through this so you can understand how we're looking to facilitate and optimize the movement of that container, reduce cost, but also increase transparency for the greater community. So today, a transport company creates a booking via the one-stop VBS. They're essentially making a booking to drop off or return a container to a facility. They assign that booking to a driver. Now, our system already has the knowledge and the information to circumvent the need to upload paperwork. We understand who the drivers are. We understand what trucks the drivers are in. Once the booking has been made and the driver has been allocated to the booking, the driver receives the new job to their Deliver app real time. It's responsive, it's completely responsive. They don't have to refresh the app. They don't have to do anything. And as you can see here, we now start to turn the process for the driver into a workflow. We don't give them one piece of paper to say, this is everything you have to do. We channel the information to them in a way that is logical based on where they are in the process. So in this case, we're saying to the driver, this is your container number. It's a 20-foot container. You've got to go from where you are to this location. You need to be there by this date and time, and the destination is this name. The driver starts the job. So the next thing we do for the driver is we present to them more detail. So they get down to a macro level. This is the actual address that you have to go to. Now, if you notice here, we actually have an entry status. So we have a traffic light system for the driver. Now, the traffic light system is determined by a bunch of predefined rules that are set at the destination facility. Green means that the driver is on time, that the facility is willing to accept that driver. There's no impediments to receiving that driver. It also means that they don't have to stop at the gatehouse. So it's a crucial step in the entry point for the truck driver. You can also notice that there's delivery instructions there's written instructions from the facility to the driver. So at any point in time, the facility that's going to receive this truck can send new instructions to the driver. Come in via gate 3, park at lane 4. So the driver starts the job, they start driving towards their destination. They pass in this case, our approaching geofence. The driver doesn't really understand that they've done this, but the application is talking to our GPS technology. Upon passing this fence, the destination facility is made aware that this truck is approaching, and because they've worked with us on the implementation, they know that this truck is 10 kilometers away or 10 miles away, which translates to 25 minutes. What that does for the destination facility helps them plan for their truck arrival. Do they need to make space for the container? Do they need to get a container out so that they can actually load the container faster? They can also send specific instructions to that individual truck driver. The driver continues on their journey. They pass through the second geofence in this case, which is the facility fence. So the facility fence, as the name suggests, is basically the perimeter of the physical destination. The truck driver, because they've already received their instructions on what to do upon arrival, they've got a traffic light system, red, green, amber. If it's green, they don't need to queue up to go to the gatehouse or stop at the gatehouse. They can bypass the gatehouse altogether and move into the truck marshalling area where they can be called in, ready to be loaded or unloaded. The driver moves into what we call an in-gate. And now once we understand this concept of the in-gate, the actual people on the ground at the destination facility that are going to service this truck now receive their job information to help them channel their energies into loading or unloading this truck. So we send a job to the forklift. Now in our environment, all the forklift operators that are using our operating software have devices also in their cabs. So once the truck passes the in-gate, the job then shows up in the forklift driver's workflow as well. So we're coordinating the flow of information across the supply chain based on where they are in the process. The forklift driver loads or unloads the truck. They complete the job on their device. That information that they've just completed is seamlessly updated to the Deliver app. It seamlessly updates to our vehicle booking system for the operator back in the office. It also updates our transport management system. The driver departs. We pass a gate out fence. The facility now understands that this truck has departed. And now at this point, the facility has a timestamp for all of those job progressions through all those geofences. They can now measure truck turn times, they can measure trends, they can understand performance of different vehicles, and all sorts of different operational scenarios. And adding to that, the driver receives a full job diary for their activities of that day. I'll just put this screen in here. This is a screen that we have for our container empty parks. And what you can see in this screen is it demonstrates to them trucks that have made a booking for the time period that they want to drill into. Now, in our world, bookings are managed in 1 hour increments, but there's no reason why we can't go to 30-minute increments. And what we can see down here is that we have a status that I've highlighted. We can see a truck arrive. We would normally see a truck on facility. We would see a truck gate in, and we would see a truck gate out as well. So all of this is actually working real time within nanoseconds of the geofence piercing. So the outcomes that we're seeing here is that we're all about removing paperwork between the transport company and their driver. We're definitely cleaning up that process of information flow. The transport company are getting electronic and real-time updates to their own system, which is of course enabling them to support their customers better. We're having obviously more efficient drivers because they're actually saving time. They're more efficient in accessing facilities, being processed and departing. And there's no information lag for anyone in this process now. The truck driver, again, is removing paperwork. They're getting really clear instructions to actually help them be processed faster before they even arrive. They can plan for their arrival. And importantly, we're improving the safety of drivers because we don't have drivers parking, leaving their truck to go and see an office. And obviously for the destination facility, they have a very clear picture of what trucks are coming into their facility at any one time. They're reducing their cost to process the gate or to manage the gatehouse. They're having a direct connection with individual truck drivers now, and they can now coordinate truck movements to be the most optimal process for their business based on how busy they are in that 1 hour window. If they release 50 time slots in that 1 hour, they don't understand if 50 trucks are going to turn up to their facility in the first 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes, or at minute 30. We've been able to smooth out the flow of trucks in their facility from moving to 1 hour increments to increments of that 1 hour. So yeah, I'll just wrap this up by saying that we approached this problem by recognizing that there were different problems for different individuals. Each needed to be solved to create a solution for the greater good, and hence my remark here: different solutions for different parties, but the outcome is a more efficient facilitation of trade. And that's all for me. There is a video in here introducing the application, but I don't think that works very well with Zoom, but it'll be embedded into the presentation. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Han. That was very interesting indeed. And yes, we will be uploading the presentation onto the event website. So look forward to seeing the video as well. So now I will be moving to Mr. Richard Mukwa. He's the information technology expert at Yellow Card RCTG office of Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA. We have the pre-recorded message. However, he's with us now to take any questions. So please feel free to put in some Q&As.
Hello, I'm Richard Mukwa, going to do a short presentation on the RCTG mobile application. This application was developed with the Yellow Card and RCTG office at COMESA. And in my presentation, I'm going to introduce the RCTG scheme and also give a short, a brief explanation on how the RCTG scheme operates. And then I will describe the mobile application. Thank you. The COMESA Regional Customs Transit Guarantee, popularly known as RCTG Connect, is a customs transit regime designed to facilitate movement of cargo under seal in the Eastern and Southern Africa region. The RCTG scheme is part of the COMESA Protocol on Transit and Trade Facilitation, and the RCTG agreement was signed by heads of state in 1990. The scheme is currently operational in East African countries of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and we are currently working with DRC and Malawi, Ethiopia, and Djibouti to start operations. So the RCTG is a contract between a surety, the principal or the clearing and forwarding agent, and customs, in which the surety guarantees that a principal, that is the clearing and forwarding agent, will pay duties and taxes owed to customs administration if the principal fails to carry out the obligation in compliance with custom law. So the RCTG bond is used to cover cargo coming from the port to the destination, and the surety, which is an insurance company or a bank, guarantees that in case that cargo does not arrive at the destination country, then the surety will pay the duties and taxes to customs administration. The RCTG can thus provide customs administration with security to recover duties and taxes from importers and exporters. The RCTG scheme has 4 key stakeholders at the national level. These are the national revenue authorities, the clearing and forwarding agents, also known as principals, the national surety, and the primary surety. The RCTG bond is used to cover movement of cargo under customs control, the movement of cargo in transit from the port to destination country, or vice versa, from inland country to the port for export. For instance, the RCTG bond is used to cover cargo from the port of Mombasa in Kenya to destination warehouse in Uganda. The RCTG scheme provides a number of advantages for the clearing and forwarding agent and also the other stakeholders. First is the elimination of requirement of multiple guarantees that are executed at the national level. This reduces the delays and time spent at the border for document verification and also in the processing of the bond documents themselves. The second advantage is that the collateral per container required by customs is reduced, and also the cost of transit and transport for cargo is greatly reduced. This also means that the RCTG bond reduces the cost of trade and by reducing the cost of transit through the region. The principal fills the RCTG bond proposal form and submits it to the primary surety. The bond proposal form contains business details regarding the principal and also any previous bonds executed by the principal and their transactions. The primary surety will then assess the risk by reviewing the bond proposal form, and based on the assessment, the primary surety will request the principal to pay a certain premium, and after payment of the premium, the principal and surety together will complete the RCTG bond form, and then the completed RCTG bond form will be taken to customs for execution. Customs will need to examine the bond form and then review the principal details, and then customs will proceed to execute this bond and assign it an RCTG bond number. The RCTG bond number is a unique identifier that is used to identify all the bonds issued in the region under the RCTG scheme. Thereafter, customs will enter the bond details into the RCTG MIS through their national customs system. The national customs system for each of the custom authorities that are currently operational in the RCTG scheme are integrated with the RCTG management information system, which contains a repository of all the bonds issued in the region and also transactions pertaining to these bonds. The RCTG management information system is a web-based application, and there are several stakeholders that are able to access this application, including the clearing and forwarding agent, the guarantors, the national sureties, customs administration, and the primary sureties. With the current operations of the RCTG scheme, we realized that the clearing and forwarding agent needed an easy access, a way to be able to get the most recent status of their RCTG bond while they are conducting their operations day to day, and also to get updates on current transactions. This is how the RCTG mobile application came to be, and it was launched in September of 2020. The mobile application provides access to real-time information to clearing and forwarding agents, and currently the application is both supported on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store and can be downloaded from the links below. The mobile application provides the following key features. The first one is that it gives the current balance for the stakeholder, for the clearing and forwarding agent. And then number two, you can be able to view the active current transactions on those bond. And then it gives the clearing and forwarding agents real-time notification on the acquittal of carnets. And lastly, it provides a window on the statistics on bond and the carnet. The mobile application can be downloaded from the links indicated earlier, and after the clearing and forwarding agent has downloaded the application, First, they will need to have an account on the RSTG MIS, which is the web-based system. And this account needs to have been created earlier before they are able to use the mobile application. What we are seeing on the screen is the login tab for the mobile application, and the principal is able to log into the system using the username and password that has already been created for them. In case the principal does not have an existing account, they can follow the link below to be able to request for credentials to be created for them on the RSTG MIS. On logging in, the clearing and forwarding agent will be presented with the first screen, which is an overview of the bond. On the left, we are seeing the current bond and also the current balance that is available on that bond. And on the left, we can see there is the outstanding amount that are currently in transaction. And then lower on the screen, we're able to see there is a summary of the candidates that have been issued on that bond. On the left screen, we are able to view the more details regarding the bond. This includes the bond number and also the country of execution of the bond. So the first screen gives details on the bond, the current status of the bond. The next screen, we have an overview of the current transactions. These are candidates that have been executed on the bond. And this page on the left enables the user to be able to search for a candidate or to filter the candidates based on several criteria, including the status and also the bond and the date range. Further, the screen on the left, you can see that the clearing and forwarding agent can be able to tab through the candidates to be able to see all the records that have been created under the account. So these two screens, the previous one on the bond and this one on the RSTG candidates, gives a general overview in real time on all the operations that have been conducted by that principal on all the bonds that they own. The next screen is a dashboard on the providing a statistical summary of the bonds and the candidates that have been issued over a given period of time. So this is basically an analytics page to give a statistical overview of the operations. There are several filters here, and you can also categorize monthly, weekly, or annually. Another statistical view is on the current status of the bond and the candidates that have been issued on that bond. Another feature that the mobile application provides includes the alerts. These are basically notifications that are received on the phone based on the transactions that are conducted, when a transaction is started and when the candidate is acquitted. Lastly, the mobile application also provides a profile page where the user is able to change the username and also to reset the password. That is all for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. So we heard from the speakers some of the interesting cases I am very much aware that we are running late, but I can't help. I think it's only fair for the panelists as well. The question that was raised previously, I would like to pose that to both Gordon and pardon me, Richard, which is asking about what are the key features and functions that would be more useful on mobile apps and versus the desktop in the domain of trade facilitation. Richard from IPCSA already mentioned about it would be better to be formulated by saying whether mobile app or desktop is more suitable or combination is both is possible. So to Gordon and Richard, can I briefly hear your views on this question?
Yeah, look, I think it's a difficult question to answer because I don't think there's a black and white rule around when a mobile should be used over a desktop application. I think we have to be really clear with ourselves around who our audience is, what problem we're trying to solve, and what data is associated to the problem. And what's the nature of the data and the interaction with the user? Is it an operational style, a platform where we need them to engage and interact? And what's the environment they're in? Or is it really about track and trace? I think, personally, I don't think I could answer that question without understanding exactly why we're building what we're building. And I think that's prudent for anyone who's going to embark on any form of build, because these things do cost money, and mobile apps are expensive to develop, and they never stop either. I think that's the other thing around being product focused and product led, is that the application and the use case continues to evolve. So before you start building something, I would always suggest that you have to understand what you're trying to solve first and whom for.
Very said. Thank you, Gordon. Mr. Richard Mokua, could you share briefly your views on this?
Okay, thank you. Thank you once again. I think generally, as before coming up with this platform, especially maybe more specifically on our own experience here at COMESA, is that this particular platform has also a web-based version. There's an existing web-based version which provides exactly the same functionality as the mobile app. But what we realized is that in some situations, the users are not able to move around with it's easier to access a mobile application, especially when they are conducting their daily operations and business, as opposed to sitting in the office and accessing the internet. So this is the reason why we came up with the mobile application. And also in terms of providing real-time notification, the mobile application now is actually very convenient in that aspect. So you find that, taking a specific example, if a clearing and forwarding agent is at the port trying to conduct a transaction, so they are able to check their current balance on their bond on their mobile phone, it will be very convenient to require them to go back in the office or call their colleagues in the office to check on the system. Also, they are able to get notification when any operation is done on their bond. So this, we find it to be very convenient for them. But as my colleague said earlier, it is a specific situation. You need to assess the specific environment and also the users. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Mokua. So yeah, that's great. I wish I have more time, but I would like to, from the ESCAP's point of view, I just wanted to pick up another question which was referring to the key regulatory issues. So as we have experienced and as we have been discussing in the past webinar sessions as well, these technical standards, these technical solutions for the mobile apps, as well as any solutions for the cross-border paperless trade is not sufficient, because countries need to have one, political commitment, two, interoperability between cross-border paperless trade in data exchange, as well as some understandings and some agreements between the countries and the applications that they are using. So I just wanted to share a very short video on the framework agreement on facilitation of cross-border paperless trade in Asia and the Pacific, because it's a UN treaty really dedicated to promote cross-border paperless trade and addressing these regulatory issues as well as interoperability issues. So no, if you can share, it's less than a minute. Thank you very much for sharing that, Mark. Yeah, so as I've said, I am very much aware that we are running late. So any unanswered questions or any questions that you haven't had the chance to raise, please do not hesitate to contact us. We will respond of all questions that you will be sending to us. In addition to the framework agreement that I mentioned, there is also a database that we are collecting good practices on the cross-border paperless trade data exchange. And Armen, who's the driving force behind the scene for the webinar on our side, he's responsible and he will be approaching all the panelists to share your good cases that you have presented today. So thank you very much to all of you. I would like to, on behalf of all co-organizers, us, ESCAP, IPCSA, ICC, and ADB, all of us, we really would like to thank all the speakers and as well as the participants to make this webinar a success. We have shared a survey link so that if you could spare your time to share your opinions about it, we would be very grateful. I would also like to mention that it is a webinar series that we are organizing. This one was the last one for this year, but we will be organizing more in the new year. So the first one in 2022 will be on 24th of February on digital services for cross-border trade. We will be putting more information on the event on the website. So please mark your calendar and we hope to see you again in 2022. And thank you very much once again for joining us. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to be here. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for us.